Good morning. Charles Osgood is off this morning. I'm Lee Cowan, and this is Sunday Morning. Like, perhaps it's not all that uncommon for a stage-struck young actor to help build a stage. But when superstar Michael Douglas did it, he had a reason to get over stage fright. Tracy Smith takes us to this unique theater with a reputation many times its size.
I'm always reminded now that I'm a senior citizen.
Sure, he had the looks and the lineage, but Michael Douglas wasn't really cut out to be a movie star until he came here.
I had terrible stage fright.
You had stage fright?
Oh, I would get sick every time just before I'd go on to stage. This is where I met Danny DeVito.
Right here?
Right here.
Ahead on Sunday Morning, the big stars and big shows that came out of this little place in Connecticut.
The great communicator
is Andrew Shepard, and I am the president.
It's Sunday Morning on CBS, and here again is Lee Cowan.
Of course, he isn't the president. He's Michael Douglas. And though you wouldn't know it from his role in The American President, his path from a stage-struck but fearful young actor to mature superstar wasn't necessarily an easy one. Our Tracy Smith caught up with him at a place filled with memories for some heartfelt questions and answers.
The views from the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center in Connecticut are incomparable, especially when you look back. Since 1964, this place, 120 miles northeast of New York City, has been a stage, a school, or a home to nearly everyone who's anyone in American theater. Playwright Edward Albee worked here. So did August Wilson. And many a star's come through. Woody Allen, Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino before The Godfather, Elizabeth Moss before Mad Men, Jeremy Piven before Entourage, Meryl Streep before, well, everything.
I was shocked to find out they have these co-ed dorms, but that was our first.
69-year-old Michael Douglas first came to the center in 1966.
Not only sleeping done there, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, rehearsing.
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 How much acting experience did you have before coming here?
Very little. Very, very little. And I was not a natural. I had terrible stage fright.
You had stage fright?
Oh, I used to, in my university productions, I used to have a wastebasket right off the stage, and I would get sick every time just before I'd go on to stage. And it was a struggle. I used to wonder a lot of times why I was even trying to do it, because it was not something that came natural to me. It took a long time to get over that.
He lived here during summers off from college in California, and his first job at the O'Neill wasn't on a stage, but on a work crew.
So you came out here to work construction, which I think to some people might sound a little crazy. I mean, you knew your dad was Kirk Douglas.
Right.
I'm suggesting, Mr. President, there's a military plot to take over the government.
The elder Douglas, who was by then a Hollywood legend, didn't think much of his son's acting ambitions. He wanted him to go to law school. He
literally said to you, be a lawyer?
Oh, yeah. Well, he said, the first time he saw me do, he said, hey, Michael, you were terrible. I said, you were terrible. I don't know what to tell you. And, I was. And
that must have been crushing.
A little bit, but if he had said something much more different than that, then I would have known that he was lying.
So was part of coming here saying, I'm going to do this on my own?
Right. Part of this was the opportunity, in terms of having summer jobs, to come here and help build this place. This is the first year the O'Neill was starting. And in return for my free labor, I might get a small part in a production. There's a big old ship mast, 40, 50 feet up in the air, a little crow's nest.
So he helped dig out the enormous pit that became the O'Neill Center's amphitheater.
There's something to having actually built this place,
yeah.
to have your hands on it.
Having it, I remember it was a lot of wheelbarrows full of dirt, kind of create all these different levels here.
And in return, he got a small part in the 1966 production of Bedford Forrest. That's him with the sword.
You want a cigarette?
No, thanks.
You smoking anything stronger?
Sometimes. Nothing special.
Douglas would go on to much bigger things, with a few bumps along the way. The same is true of the place that helped launch him. In the early 1960s, the O'Neill site was an abandoned eyesore. It belonged to the town of Waterford, and the plan was to burn the old buildings down as practice for the fire department. But a local visionary stepped in to save them. George White was a young Yale Drama School grad who lived nearby. He never thought much of the old place until inspiration struck.
We were just very happily sailing along and looked up the hillside.
White was sailing with his wife Betsy out here on Long Island Sound one day back in 1962. Right around this spot, he looked up and saw those old buildings on a hill above the beach, and he had himself an idea.
What made you look up and say, theater?
The barn.
The barn?
It's like Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland. Let's put on a show.
That
in
was
the barn. In the barn.
In a barn?
Yeah, the barn was always, because I played in it. It's a great barn.
The rest is American theater history. By 1964, White had begun turning the barn and other buildings into what amounted to a permanent theater camp. He named it for a man who grew up nearby, the Nobel Prize-winning playwright Eugene O'Neill. It became a place where the most promising writers and composers could see their brand new plays and musicals fleshed out by up-and-coming actors. And the formula worked. For example, composer Lin-Manuel Miranda used his time at the O'Neill to perfect his Tony Award-winning musical, In the Heights. The O'Neill is where Robert Lopez and Jeff Marks developed their Tony-winning show, Avenue Q. And the list gets longer every year.
Mama, just look, I'm a long ways from pretty.
Composer Janine Tesori's O'Neill Center project became the current Broadway smash, Violet.
What role did the O'Neill play in your life?
The O'Neill was the first institution to say yes to me.
Won't you be surprised?
The great thing that the O'Neill does is it presents you with a compass, and it says, here's where north is. It is not just about doing the work, it's about learning how to work.
Continually, with wine, with poetry, with virtue, or what we will.
You got the part.
Work is the operative term. Drama students who make it into the O'Neill's National Theater Institute are basically in class or in production 13 hours a day, 7 days a week.
What fun, and you get credit, I tell you.
You didn't get any college credit when you came.
No, I got no college credit, no.
A lot of other good stuff.
I got
though.
a lot of good other stuff, though. Got a lot of good other stuff. Life lessons.
Life lessons.
Yes.
And I know you can't go into great detail, but when you weren't working, what did you do here?
Flirt. We worked very hard, and we played very hard. I wouldn't say people in the theater are loose, but there was a lot of fun.
But he also learned enough about acting to earn the respect of his colleagues and eventually his dad.
He came to every production I think I ever did at the university. And he was the first one to say, you know, you were good, Michael. You were really, really good. And I think I probably inherited some of my father's tenacity and killer instinct.
You say with a smile.
That's right. How else are you going to say it?
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
3 dozen movies and 2 Oscars later, Michael Douglas still says he is what he is, in part at least, because of what he started here.
The summers that I spent here were magical, working on really good plays with really good actors 49 years ago, and it changed my life.